In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. In order that all sentient beings may attain Buddhahood, from my heart I take refuge in the three jewels. Whatever the virtues of the many fields of knowledge, all are steps on the path of omniscience. May these arise in the clear mirror of intellect. O Manjushri, please accomplish this. Good evening and welcome.
Is it warm enough where you are? You seemed like you were.
Just trying to get rid of the numbness in the hands. Wake them up so that I have some feeling. So I think we're on page like 52 or 3. What do you guys think? Any thoughts on that? Trying to look up my reading reminder.
50, 53 after the first paragraph.
That's what I have. The mere transcendence. Okay, so we're in the complete knowledge of the characteristics section. And maybe I'll just check out our outline, see if I can figure out where we are, I should say. Okay, we're in the fundamental transformation, and we're here. We're in the discussion of the basis, the 10 topics involving fundamental transformation. The sixth one is the foundation or basis that has these parts to it. The complete knowledge of remedies, characteristics, distinctions, and functions. Okay. Why don't we just read the root verse to get us into the context on the second topic, which is the second of these 4 types of complete understanding. As for the complete knowledge of the characteristics, there is no directing of the mind, complete transcendence, thorough pacification, the state of the essence and apprehension of manifest signs. The specific characteristic is the abandonment of these 5. As for the complete knowledge of the characteristics, there is no directing of the mind as in the case of a small child. Complete transcendence of concept and discernment as in the second concentration or absorption and so forth. Thorough pacification of concepts, as is the case when one falls asleep, loses consciousness, and so forth. For the state of the non-conceptual essence of eyes, and so forth, the 5 senses are non-conceptual cognition, and 5, the apprehension of manifest signs involved when one entertains the thought, I shall not think. The specific characteristic is the abandonment of these 5 types of semi-non-conceptual cognition. Okay, so uh, the second paragraph under that, wakefulness cannot be immediately demonstrated in an affirmative manner to those whose perspective is limited in scope. In essence, it is entirely non-conceptual, meaning that it unerringly realizes the fact that the intrinsic nature cannot be observed in relation to any extreme position whatsoever, which seems to be more like the intrinsic nature cannot be observed or known whenever we have in our mind any position at all. The word extreme is an extreme. It's really like any conceptual idea at all. With this realization, there's no fixation at all, which is in harmony with the intrinsic nature. Okay, so on 53, the mere transcendence of all forms of coarse and subtle activity, as is found in the form of consciousness on the second absorption and above, is not non-conceptual wakefulness. Interesting that in earlier they used the term concentration, the second concentration, and now they use the term absorption. Similarly, the mere pacification of thought is not what is meant here either, as such states occur while in the states of deep sleep, having fallen unconscious, intoxication, and the equilibrium of cessation. This is also the case with things that are essentially non-conceptual by their very nature. This includes form and other objects of the senses, or sensory objects, as well as the eye itself and the other sense organs. Though all of these are essentially non-conceptual insofar as they are material objects, they are not non-conceptual wakefulness. So, form and other sensory objects are the objects of the five senses, as well as the sense faculties, the eye and the other sense organs. Clinging to the notion, I will not think of anything whatsoever, like even if there's 100 men with spears surrounding me, pointing their spears at me, or their guns at me, like, don't think. I will not, is not non-conceptual wakefulness either, for by thinking, I will not think with certainty and clarity what has already formed concepts about not thinking. Since such clear grasp in itself involves clinging to marks, such as this is thought and this is not thought, it is not non-conceptual. The characteristics of non-conceptual wakefulness are thus explained by not conflating them with and eliminating the character of these five factors that may be referred to by the term non-conceptual. Thus, it must be understood that what we are referring to here is individual self-awareness, which does not form even the slightest extreme view or conceptual elaboration, and in which the haze of doubt concerning the unobservable nature of the way things are is absent. Thus, when the light of self-aware wakefulness has dawned from within, one may refer to it as non-conceptual wakefulness. Complete knowledge of the distinctions, the third of the four types of complete understanding. As for the complete knowledge of the distinctions, there is an absence of conceptualization, an absence of limitation, an absence of abiding, endurance, and the unsurpassable. These are the five distinctions. As for the complete knowledge of the distinctions, there is an absence of conceptualization concerning the flaws and good qualities of existence and peace, respectively, an absence of limitation, since the specific and general characteristics of the cognizable are taken as objects correctly. Absence of abiding in the extremes of existence and peace, endurance in the sense of not passing beyond suffering without remainder, and the unsurpassable qualities. These are the five distinctions. Third, there are the five distinctions that set this wakefulness apart from that of the listeners and solitary Buddhas. Are you guys listening? So you're listeners. Okay, good. There is no conceiving of cyclic existence as something to abandon, and the transcendence of suffering as something to accept. That's like today, there's no conceiving of political parties or anything to abandon, or the transcendence of what may come to pass or not. Abandonment and realization are not partial but fully complete. One does not dwell on the extreme of existence, nor in that of peace, samsara, nirvana, by virtue of the eternal essence of the body of qualities. The body of qualities, one remains perpetually in cyclic existence to benefit others. The body of qualities is a little bit of an odd term because it's not quite what you would expect for the Nirmanakaya or the Sambhogakaya.
I think in the glossary it says that that's the Dharmakaya.
It does. Excellent. But the eternal essence of the body of qualities, I see, by virtue of the Dharmakaya. Thank you, that's great. One remains perpetually in cyclic existence to benefit others, and since there's nothing superior to this, its qualities are supreme and unexcelled, because they conceive in terms of cyclic existence versus the transcendence of suffering. These distinctions do not pertain to the listeners and solitary Buddhas who do think about samsara, think about things in terms of samsara and nirvana.
Could you say anything about number 2?
Abandonment and realization are not partial but are fully complete. I think the abandonment and realization of the listeners and solitary Buddhas is not complete, is only partial. Those being the two qualities of enlightenment: abandonment, abandoning defilements or obstructions to enlightenment, and then realization, usually more like the blossoming of qualities, or
Got it. The Sanjay.
yeah, Sanjay,
Yeah.
the
Okay. So this
translation
is
of
so
Buddha.
basically all of this is distinguishing. Right. Okay. Thank you. I just
Yeah, it all like the lead in the five distinctions that set it
right.
apart.
Somehow I lost that on when I read that one. Thank you.
Right, we got into the lists. Complete knowledge of the functions. On the fourth topic, the treatise states finally, concerning the complete knowledge of the functions, one distances oneself from concepts. I'm going to go far away. I'm going to get in my car. I'm going to drive as far as I can away from my concepts. Unsurpassable bliss is granted. One is freed from the obstructions of affliction and cognition. That's funny. Like, the afflictions are the obstructions, but cognition is not really
Obscuration.
the obscuration of affliction and cognition. The obscurations of affliction and cognition. All the features of the objects of cognition are accessed through the wakefulness attained subsequently. The Buddha fields are purified, sentient beings are completely matured, and omniscience itself is established and granted. These are the five distinctions of the function. Finally, concerning the complete knowledge of the functions of wakefulness as non-conceptual wakefulness, one distances oneself from the causes of concepts due to having overcome the full emergence of the habitual tendencies, but distances oneself from the causes of concepts due to having overcome the full emergence of habitual tendencies. Unsurpassable bliss is granted due to realizing the objects of cognition just as they are and in their multiplicity, the two ways of knowing that is what omniscience is. 3. One is freed from the obscurations of affliction and cognition due to having completely overcome the subtle developers. Those subtle developers, they're so subtle, including their habitual tendencies. All the features of the objects of cognition 4 are accessed through the wakefulness attained subsequent to non-conceptuality. And 5, the Buddha fields are completely purified, sentient beings are completely matured, and omniscience itself is established and granted. These are the five distinctions of the function. Mipam's commentary. Fourth, the last of these four forms of complete understanding relates to the functions of non-conceptual wakefulness. One such function is that one distances oneself from the causes of conceptuality, since one has conquered their emergence. Interesting additional explanation he gives to the root verse that just says one distances oneself from concepts. He says the causes of concepts. This is the result of individual effort. It also bestows undefiling bliss, which is unexcelled in character, since one realizes all phenomena in an unerring manner and accomplishes perpetual and everlasting bliss. This is the dominant result. Wakefulness also divests one of the emotional and cognitive obscurations, as one conquers the subtle developers and their habitual tendencies. The subtle developers, the subtle latent tendencies, I guess, or latent kleshas that give rise to the habitual tendencies. This is the result of separation. Subsequent to the attainment of non-conceptual wakefulness, wakefulness unerringly realizes the specific characteristics of phenomena, understands phenomena in their actuality. This wakefulness has unhindered access to all forms of knowledge. This is the result that resembles its cause. That's a famous phrase, the result that resembles its cause. Is it one of the 6 types of results in Vasubandhu's Abhidharma Treasury? So I think that's like an indication of continuity of ground, path, and fruition. Finally, purifying Buddha fields, completely maturing sentient beings, and establishing, perfecting the qualities of total omniscience in one's own mind stream and granting them to others, when considered a single function, are the result of maturation. These 5 are the distinct functions of non-conceptual wakefulness. The 7th topic, directing the mind, the 7th of the 10. The treatise states, as for directing the mind, the person who wishes to enter non-conceptual wakefulness, that bodhisattva should direct the mind in the following way. Due to not knowing suchness, that which is not true is wholly imagined. The so-called entity of seeds causes the appearance of
Is this
duality.
entirety?
Thank you. What did I say?
Entity?
Entity. Thank you. The so-called entirety of seeds causes the appearance of duality where there is none. The distinct continua are based on that. Accordingly, causes and effects do appear, but do not exist. The appearance of that is not the appearance of the intrinsic nature. When that does not appear, the intrinsic nature appears. Directing the mind correctly in this way, the bodhisattva enters into non-conceptual wakefulness. Observing in this way brings about the observation of mere awareness without the observation of objects. The absence of the observation of objects brings about the absence of the observation of mere awareness. The absence of the observation of that allows access to an observation where these two are not different, observed and observer. When no distinction between the two is observed, this is non-conceptual wakefulness beyond object and observation, because the absence of the observation of any mark is what distinguishes this. Mipam. As for directing the mind, the person who ardently wishes to enter non-conceptual wakefulness, that bodhisattva should direct the mind in the following way. Due to not knowing suchness, because of the habitual tendencies of the ignorance that has been present since beginningless time, that which is not true is wholly imagined by thought. So, That which is not true is wholly imagined by thought. So that's all of samsara. The so-called entirety of seeds, i.e. the all-ground consciousness, the storehouse of seeds, causes the appearance of duality where there is no duality. It makes it seem like there's subject and object. The six engaged cognitions, the six sense experiences that appear as separate and distinct continuum. They appear to have the continuum of their own. Each one of the six are based on that all ground of the storehouse. Not knowing this is the cause of error. Not knowing that all of what we experience is actually the all, what does they call it, the all ground consciousness manifesting. Accordingly, causes and effects do appear, but since they do not actually exist in the way they appear, they do not exist. The appearance of that, meaning the nature of apprehended and apprehender, is not the appearance of the intrinsic nature, which is empty of duality. So the appearance of duality is not intrinsic nature. When that duality of apprehended and apprehender does not appear, the intrinsic nature appears. When we experience non-duality, then intrinsic nature appears, non-dualistically, obviously. Convinced that this is the case, the bodhisattva directs his or her mind accordingly. Thus, directing the mind correctly in this way, the bodhisattva enters into non-conceptual wakefulness as included in the path of joining. Non-conceptual wakefulness on the path of joining. Interesting. Observing in this way, path of joining is the second of the five paths and leads to the path of seeing, which is direct, complete, non-conceptual cognition of the intrinsic nature. Observing in this way, as was just explained, brings about access to the observation of mere awareness alone, without the observation of external objects. The absence of the observation of objects brings about the absence of the observation of mere awareness, the observer, as well, because there is no object to be aware of. The absence of the observation of that mere awareness allows access to an observation where these two, the apprehended and the apprehender, are not different. When no distinction between these two is observed, this is non-conceptual wakefulness beyond any object in terms of the duality of apprehended and apprehender, and beyond any observation by a corresponding subject, because the absence of the observation of any mark is what distinguishes this non-conceptual cognition. Non-conceptual wakefulness. Non-conceptual wakefulness does not have any observation of marks or characteristics. Mipam, the seventh topic concerns the manner in which one directs the mind to the fundamental transformation. An individual who wishes to correctly access the support of non-conceptual wakefulness, meaning a bodhisattva, must direct his or her mind as follows. Lacking knowledge of suchness, the way all phenomena are, causes fictitious phenomena, the duality of apprehended and apprehender, to be imagined by the deluded mind. The entirety of seeds associated with these phenomena is known as the all-ground consciousness, which functions as the cause of the non-existent yet apparent duality of apprehended and apprehender. Like a dream, all the various phenomena manifest from this stream of consciousness, contaminated as it is by the habitual tendencies that have proliferated from time immemorial. The engaging consciousnesses that are supported by the all-ground are each characterized as distinct, as each appears to occur in its own definitively apprehending its own respective object. Let's see. The engaging consciousnesses that are supported by the all-ground are each characterized as distinct, as each appears to occur in its own, definitively apprehending its own respective object. This is also referred to as mind stream. So this is an interesting statement, that the engaging consciousnesses are called the mind streams of sentient beings. So that's how they're referring to sentient beings. They're all supported, or we are all supported by the all ground, and are each characterized as distinct, as each appears to occur on its own, definitively apprehending its own respective object. We all have our own world that we experience.
I was reading that as that each of the sense consciousness has its own respective objects.
Interesting, like a dream, all the various phenomena manifest from this stream of consciousness, contaminated as by the habitual tendencies. The engaging consciousnesses that are supported by the all ground are each characterized as distinct, as each appears to occur in its own, definitively apprehending its own respective object. Yeah, that is the consciousnesses. Something made me feel like they were also referring to separate sentient beings. This is referred to as mind stream. I guess the mind stream, the way they're talking about the mind stream made up of all these different continua of the senses. That makes sense. Under the influence of the false imagination, that which does not exist appears. That is to say, the all-ground function as the cause, along with its result, meaning the 7 collections of consciousness, along with their respective objects, appear in this manner from the perspective of the deluded mind as the phenomena that comprise the dualistic appearance of apprehended and apprehender. Though non-existent in actuality, like a mirage and other such examples, such appearances are nothing more than the mind's own false imagination. It is taught that due to the appearance of apprehended and apprehender, the intrinsic nature does not appear, while due to the non-appearance of these two, the intrinsic nature does appear. The non-appearance of these two, meaning apprehender and apprehended. To explain under the influence of the false imagination, sentient beings wander throughout cyclic existence, not seeing the intrinsic nature. So this is talking about the 3 natures of the Yogacara tradition. False imagination, parikalpita, paritantra, the dependent nature, and then the completely perfected nature, parinishpana. So, let's see. The power of, let's see. Bodhisattvas, on the other hand, understand this and direct their minds appropriately, thereby accessing non-conceptual wakefulness for the first time. The power of thought brings about the appearance of cyclic existence. It has no other cause. Thought alone is the cause of samsara. Hence, when it comes to understanding thorough affliction, there is no vital point more profound than this. Everything is your mind. Furthermore, since dualistic appearances are not what they seem, they are nothing more than inaccurate concepts. Understanding this enables one to eliminate fixating on them as such and provides access to non-conceptual wakefulness. So when we know that our thoughts are nothing more than inaccurate concepts, we shift our attention to the non-conceptual wakefulness that surrounds our thoughts. Thus, when it comes to the path that leads to complete perfection, this vital point is exceedingly profound as well. By growing familiar with the process of directing the mind, observing in the mind explained above, one will observe all phenomena as mere awareness, mere mind. With this, One no longer observes external objects as objects of fixation. Not observing such objects in turn leads to the non-observation of the mere awareness that apprehends them as this and that as well. Due to the non-observation of this apprehension, not apprehending the not observing the apprehension of phenomena as appearances, rather, as this and that, cannot be differentiated. One comes to observe the fact that apprehended and apprehender cannot be differentiated from one another. If we can't differentiate the object of apprehending, then we can't differentiate the apprehended and the apprehender. Due to the non-observation, one comes to observe the facts that they cannot be differentiated from one another, that they are an inseparable suchness beyond all forms of thought and expression. This non-observation of any phenomena that could be delineated as either apprehended or apprehender is what we refer to as non-conceptual wakefulness, in which there's not even the slightest object to be observed and no subject to observe it. Consequently, one does not observe any marks whatsoever, such as those associated with apprehended and apprehender, and existence and non-existence. Since non-conceptual wakefulness is distinguished in terms of this non-observation, there is not even the slightest rationale for anything that would be considered conceptual.
I do have one question. They seem to be talking about one, the one who, and so how do they, so there still is some sense of there being an individual who is involved in this non-observing, right? Because it's funny that they seem to be denying apprehension and apprehender, but then there's this, like they kind of go back and forth between saying observing and then saying non-observing. Have you noticed that?
They do. And they're constantly saying one does or does not. One.
So it's
Who
sort of
is
like,
this
who is
one?
this, what is this observer as different than an
Yeah,
apprehender?
yeah, yeah. I wonder if that's in the Tibetan or if the translators added those pronouns.
What's also really interesting actually is just that this is all about directing the mind, right? How the bodhisattva directs the mind. So they,
There's a practice.
right, but they don't quite get to like saying, here's how you do it, other than just in this non-observation, and which I guess is the essence of it in one sense. I suppose that's the ultimate Mahamudra practice as well, right? The non-finding and all that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So let's see. Mental cultivation 175. I was curious how other translators are dealing with certain things, such as this. So we have this translation by Jim Scott of the same commentary by Mipom. And he doesn't, let's see, he doesn't seem to use the one.
So you're saying that this 175 mental cultivation is the same as the directing the mind?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And let's see, so he ends up with the sentence, this is how one abandons the assumption of its being what it appears to be, and this is how non-conceptual wisdom is penetrated. But he does use the pronoun one also. Oh, sorry, that's not the right paragraph. Let's see, it's at the end. let's see, his last paragraph, which starts in our text by growing familiar with the process through habituation, Jim Scott, through habituation to a mental cultivation where focusing is practiced thus. As just explained, one will be focused on what one will be focused on. What will be focused on is all phenomena as being mere image awareness or mind only. Mere mind. Through this, the breakthrough is achieved in which there are no outer reference as assumed on which to focus. Though through there being no such reference that could be focused on, it will follow that there is no perceiver of this and that, no such mere awareness on which to focus. Through that perceiver not existing on which to focus, the verge is crossed into focusing on reality, which is suchness transcending thought and expression, and which is free of duality, in that there is no twofold division into perceived and perceiver. This having evolved, there are no phenomena whatsoever, meaning anything perceived and a perceiver of it as a result of a split into these two, existing on which to focus. This is what is called original non-conceptual wisdom, since this is what is defined with the utmost precision as that which involves no object whatsoever serving as a focal reference, no focusing agent of any sort as an observer, and as a result, no attributes in any sense, such as the existence of perceived and perceiver, their non-existence, and so on which to focus at all. Because of this, there are not even the subtlest grounds on which anything included under conceptual factors could be posited. And let's see, Padmakar there is not even the slightest rationale for anything that would be considered conceptual. Okay, anyway, let's continue with our translation. Application at the bottom of page 59 on the 8th topic, the treatise states, accessing the grounds through application should be known to involve 4 points. Through the full application of interest, one accesses the grounds of inspired conduct, the phase of ascertainment. Through the full application of discerning realization, one accesses the first ground, the phase of contact. Through the full application by means of cultivation, one accesses the 6 impure grounds and the 3 pure grounds. So the 6 impure grounds in this case would be bhumis 2 through 7, and the 3 pure grounds would be 8, 9, and 10, I believe. And the 3 pure grounds, the phase of recollection. Through the application of perfection, one accesses the spontaneous accomplishment of uninterrupted Buddha activity. Therefore, this is the phase of arriving at the identity of that. Welcome.
And
You've
is this
arrived.
that with a capital T?
Rimshay would have, yeah. It seems that way. Let's see, Mipam. Accessing the grounds through application should be known to involve 4 points. 1, through the full application of interest. The application of interest. It's a little bit more than interest, I would say. Like intensity, intense focus. One accesses the grounds of inspired contact, the phase of ascertainment that was described above, which seems to refer to the second path. 2, through the full application of discerning realization, one accesses the first ground, having entered into the path of seeing. I added that. The full realization of the basic field of phenomena by way of the path of seeing. Basic field of phenomena. Dharma Dhatu. This is the phase of contact that was taught above. Through the full application by means of cultivation, one accesses the 6 impure grounds, beginning with the second bhumi, upon which there is experience of marks, and the 3 completely pure grounds, beginning with the eighth, upon which there is spontaneous access to the absence of marks. So before Bhumis 1 through 7 still have the experience of marks, 8 and above no marks. 4 through the application of perfection, one accesses the spontaneous accomplishment of uninterrupted Buddha activity at the ground of Buddhahood. Therefore, this is the phase of arriving at the identity of that was taught above, that being the intrinsic nature, presumably. So that was Vasubandhu arranged by Khenpo Shenga. Here is Mipom. Eighth, practicing this wakefulness, meaning to exert oneself and apply oneself to it, provides access to the individual grounds or bases present at the various phases of the grounds and paths. This should be understood to involve 4 aspects. First, even though one has yet to directly realize the intrinsic nature, utilizing the 3 forms of insight. The 3 forms of insight. Was there anything in the glossary on that? It's a little bit
It wouldn't be the
surprised.
3 prajnas, could it?
It might.
Maybe a stretch, but
Utilizing the 3 forms of insight. I was thinking more of the 3 schemes for Vipassana that are listed in the Treasury of Knowledge summary chapter. Well, and applying oneself to wakefulness with interest constitutes the application upon the grounds of inspired conduct. This phase encompasses the path of joying and involves an approximation of ascertainment, a conceptual understanding of suchness. The application of a thorough, discerning realization of the intrinsic nature, rather than as a mere abstract concept, provides access to the first ground, the first bhumi, or joyful, the phase in which one comes into direct contact with thatness. Once thatness has been realized, the next application involves familiarizing oneself with it some more. This provides access to the so-called 6 impure grounds, which refers to the 2nd to the 7th. This is a phase in which one is thoroughly involved with marks. The purification of this thorough involvement with marks provides access to the 8th through 10th grounds. These last 9 grounds encompass the phase in which one recalls what has already been realized. Applying oneself to the ground of perfection provides access to the effortless and spontaneously accomplished Buddha activities of Buddhahood, which continue without interruption for so long as sentient beings remain throughout the reaches of space. This application takes place once one has reached or arrived at the identity of the intrinsic nature, having eliminated the 2 obscurations. It is immutable. Immutable. It is immutable wakefulness, indivisible from the basic field. The basic field, suchness, I guess.
just a
Flaws.
note on that 3. I looked in Jim Scott's book, and his footnote indicates it is the 3 prajnas.
All right. That's great. Thank you. That's why I pulled it out. That his texts.
Yeah, I feel like we should be reading them both together
Yeah. Yeah.
in our spare
I
time.
agree. Right. So what page is that on, Jim? Is that
Well, if you look at
7?
the footnote 61, let's
Oh,
see, I'm
okay.
sorry, it's on page 187, I think. He says 3 types of knowledge, and footnote 61, which is on the very back inside cover, um, where it says the 3 types of knowledge are the knowledge deriving from listening, from reflection, and from meditation.
Thank you. Okay. And let's see. The application of us. So the first full paragraph on 61. The application of a thorough, discerning realization of the intrinsic nature rather than as an mere abstract concept provides access to the first ground, the phase in which one comes into direct contact with thatness. Once thatness has been realized, the next application involves familiarizing oneself with it again and again. This provides access to the so-called sixth and pure grounds, which refers to the second to the seventh. This is a phase in which one is thoroughly involved with marks. The purification of this thorough involvement with marks provides access to the 8th through 10th grounds. These last 9 grounds encompass the phase in which one recalls what has already been realized, i.e., on the first ground, the path of seeing, the intrinsic nature, seen directly, non-conceptually. Flaws. Applying oneself to the ground of perfection in the last paragraph of this section provides access to the effortless and spontaneously accomplished activities of Buddhahood, which continue without interruption so long as sentient beings remain throughout the reaches of space. That's a long time. This application takes place once one has reached or arrived at the identity of the intrinsic nature, having eliminated the two obscurations. It is immutable wakefulness, indivisible from the basic field. Now, what is the basic field? Do they give us the basic field?
Is that like Dharma Dhatu or?
It's got to be Dharmadhatu. Chukyi, basic space of phenomena.
Oh, there's, wait, if the, in the English Tibetan on page 79, it says field on the left, and on the right it says Spyodyyul or
Yeah,
Jing.
and Jing, yeah. Do we
Is
have
that Ying,
a,
also known as? Or,
no, that's not Ying.
no, okay.
I don't think so.
What is it?
Do they have basic?
Oh, haha.
Basic field of phenomena.
Oh,
Chukyi Ying. So there's the Ying
basic
on
field.
the
Oh,
first page of the Tibetan
yeah, yeah,
glossary.
yeah. Oh, okay. Wow,
Dharma.
that's weird that, huh,
There's a different time word for field, Jing.
yeah, yeah. And what does that one mean? Do you know?
That means like literally a field, like a meadow.
Like where
It's
you
only,
grow stuff or whatever. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
okay.
And the Chuyul, that first one, the spewed yul, is
Right.
pronounced Chuyul.
Thank you. I didn't want to even try because I knew I would mess that one up. There's some that I can attempt, but that one is beyond me.
That is that which is taken as an object, which is one way of describing the field of cognition, of cognitive objects, of the apprehended, the
Huh.
field of the apprehended. So I think we're still on 61. So flaws. You didn't think there were any flaws, but there are. On the ninth topic, the treatise states accessing the flaws implies the four flaws that are due to a lack of fundamental transformation. The flaw of lacking a support for not engaging affliction. The flaw of lacking a support for engaging the path. The flaw of lacking a basis for identifying the individuals who have transcended suffering, and the flaw of lacking a basis for recognizing three distinct types of enlightenment. Accessing the flaws implies the four flaws that are due to a lack of fundamental transformation. The flaw, one of lacking a support in the form of the wakefulness that has relinquished obscuration for not engaging affliction. Two, the flaw of lacking a support for engaging the path that dispels obscuration. The flaw of lacking a basis for identifying the individuals who have transcended suffering is the third, because such recognition must be made based on their attainment of fundamental transformation. And four, the flaw of lacking a basis for recognizing three distinct types of enlightenment, because such recognition must be made based on the presence of fundamental transformation. Ninth, accessing flaws refers to the four flaws related to the absence of fundamental transformation. The first flaw is lacking a support that will keep the afflictions from re-engaging a mind stream that has already eliminated them. The first flaw is lacking a support that will keep the afflictions from re-engaging a mind stream that is already eliminating them. Okay. Second is the flaw of lacking a support for the path that remedies the afflictions that engage the mind stream. Third is the flaw of the absence of a basis for recognizing those individuals who have transcended suffering. And finally, the fourth flaw is lacking a basis for recognizing the three distinct types of enlightenment, meaning the end result attained by the listener, solitary Buddhas, Shravakas, Pratyeka Buddhas, and those who practice the great vehicle Bodhisattvas. Now, let us go into more detail concerning the key points that one should understand from this discussion. If, for instance, there were no fundamental transformation whereby one could eliminate the discards and attain realization by virtue of the path, then a flaw would ensue in which there would be no support that would keep the afflictions that were previously eliminated from re-engaging that same mind stream. The discards that are eliminated on the path of seeing, for example, do not recur in the same mind stream once they have been eliminated, due to the fact that the mind stream of that bodhisattva will already have undergone a complete and fundamental transformation. And this goes along with this idea that enlightenment transitions one from a sentient being, a being with a consciousness mind, to a being with non-conceptual wakeful mind. Indeed, there is no point at which they could do so. So like path of seeing, the seventh consciousness disappears, which is where these flaws would attach to, I believe. Indeed, there's no point at which they could do so. On the other hand, if the mind stream has not undergone this fundamental transformation, then obscurations that had already been eliminated at one point in time could reoccur just as before. You would have to constantly keep purifying the mind if you didn't actually change the mind into something else. This is the case all the way up to Buddhahood. A given mind stream that has yet to undergo a fundamental transformation serves as the support for engaging the discards that are to be eliminated. Once this fundamental transformation has taken place, however, this mind stream serves as a support for not engaging those same factors due to the power of the fundamental transformation. What is the problem, one may wonder, if these discards, like burnt seeds, were simply to not recur once their seeds had been conquered, even in the absence of this so-called fundamental transformation? So instead of like transforming the mind, you could say that the seeds are all burnt, all possible seeds. In response, we may say that in such a case, the seeds of the discards would indeed have been overcome. But this would have to be posited in relation to a specific mind stream. If a certain mind stream has given rise to the wakefulness that remedies the discards, it may be identified, for example, as a stream that has exhausted the defilements, a mind stream. But without referring to a formed mind stream, one could not understand how these seeds were overcome. For this very reason, it is impermissible impermissible to make such a claim without further specification. It's not permissible. From this perspective, we can see that it is by virtue of the difference between the fundamental transformation of a mind stream divested of the seeds of the discards and its prior state that the discards do not recur. So this is like in defense of the whole idea of a transformation of the base of the Alaya Vijnana, like in its nature. It is not that the mind stream ceases and consequently can no longer serve its support. Hence, it is in some specific mind streams that the defilements arise and others in which they do not, which is due to the fact that some have undergone this fundamental transformation and others have not. This can be likened to eyes that are not afflicted with cataracts and which consequently do not witness the appearance of hairs, floaters, or whatever. Another flaw that ensues from the absence of this fundamental transformation is that there is no support for engaging the path that serves as the remedy for the discards. So I think the overall context for this is he is arguing against those who say that there's no fundamental change when enlightenment happens, that it's as it was before, so it is after.
So is the sense you mentioned that was it at the path of seeing you said that the seventh consciousness goes, and then essentially then going through the next, I don't know, the next eight or so, then you still have the Alaya Vijnana, the eighth, right? Because that's what you're trying to purify, right?
That's correct, yeah.
And so essentially is this saying that the transformation is not a one-shot deal, it's a multi-step process where the first step happens at the path of seeing, where you've ditched the seventh consciousness, and then later steps are occurring, obviously all along the way, but I imagine there's some specific markers. Like, is the Alaya Vijnana only gone at the point of Buddhahood, or is that at the...
Only at Buddhahood does the Alaya Vijnana disappear. So yeah, it's interesting. He's saying that at the path of seeing, there's a fundamental transformation where discards can no longer reattach themselves to the mind. They have no place to attach themselves to the mind, having lost the seven consciousness. And then from that time onward, all you're doing is you're gradually eliminating or cleaning up the subtle latent tendencies that reside in the Alaya Vijnana. And that's an interesting idea because there's also this notion that on the impure bhumis 1 through 7, you're still generating subtle tendencies. And that one's like, in some places they imply that you're not generating additional subtle tendencies, but that you're not completely without them, that you're still purifying them. And in other places, there's this implication that until the eighth, you're actually still generating subtle conceptual obscurations or discards, whatever you would call them. But be curious. Let's see how he describes this process of the bhumis, if he does. Let's see, another flaw that ensues from the absence of this fundamental transformation is that there's no support for engaging the path that serves as the remedy for the discards. There's no support for the path. I guess non-conceptual wakefulness is the support for the path.
Well, is this one of those sort of double negative things where that for those who believe that there's no fundamental transformation, then there would be no support for engaging in the path? I don't know if that's...
Something like that. Yeah. Well, let's see what else he says. The support for a specific mind stream to access progressively higher levels of attainment, as when a particular individual is on the path of seeing, that another is on the second ground, and so on. That another. is the prior state of fundamental transformation experienced by that mind stream. Without such a prior state, the occurrence of a subsequent state would be impossible, just as there can be no stem nor any other part of a plant if a seed has yet to sprout. So it's sort of like he's saying the qualities of the mind build on each other through the bhumis. The conventional labels associated with the various paths along with their respective meanings apply to the different fundamental transformations, as in the case when we refer to the ground of Buddhahood as the path of no more training. Yet another flaw associated with the lack of this fundamental transformation is that there would be no basis for recognizing the transcendence of suffering. For example, taking the continuum of the defiled aggregates as a basis, one may identify someone as an individual within cyclic existence because of the continuum of the defiled aggregates as a basis. Just so the identification of someone as an individual who has transcended suffering is made on the basis of identifying the fundamental transformation in which defilements are no longer present. In the first instance, he says taking the continuum, and here he doesn't say there's a continuum. Well, what is it that sort of carries through from bhumi to bhumi? In the absence of such a fundamental transformation, there would be no basis within the mere continuum of the mind and other factors that comprise the aggregates for identifying a given individual as someone who has transcended suffering, as would have been the case in the phase prior to fundamental transformation, where you had the continuum of a defiled individual. Furthermore, he's still a little bit vague of like, what is the continuum then? Furthermore, if this were the case, there would also be no basis for using the term the transcendence of suffering to identify an individual who has moved beyond suffering into the basic field without remainder. So you can't say that there's like some person, someone, as is held to be the case in the paths of listeners and solitary Buddhas. Without a fundamental transformation, such a term would be as baseless as talking about our favorite analogy, the horns of a rabbit. Even if there is no such basis, what is the problem? One may object. What's the problem? The mere cessation of what had previously been the aggregates is termed the transcendence of suffering, just as one may say there is no illness when an illness has been cured. So he's talking about those who talk about enlightenment in this way, as like, well, why talk positively about some sort of supreme nature or intrinsic nature when you can describe the process of enlightenment as just the elimination of obscurations. In response, we may say that if the aggregates that were previously present have definitively ceased and do not recur, then this itself implies their fundamental transformation. Hence, in this case, there would also be fundamental transformation. Indeed, fundamental transformation is both the support and basis for identifying a given individual within the phrases one who has transcended suffering and one who will no longer fall into cyclic existence. For this very reason, it cannot be asserted that there is no fundamental transformation. If one were to do so, it would follow that there is no cessation of the continuum of the aggregates and no non-recurrence of them either, precisely because both the support and basis for the application of these terms would be lacking. Who is it that is enlightened? It seems like this term, fundamental transformation, can be sort of misleading, thinking that there's a fundamental transformation of something else. But I think it's actually a transformation of the foundation. That there's the foundation transformation, the foundation being
And is that, are you saying that that's not a thing?
uh, No, it is sort of a thing, but that is what's transformed, and that is the supported basis. As a, it feels like the way they're translating it, foundational, fundamental transformation of something else. But I think it's actually the transformation of the foundation.
I would think so. I mean, isn't this whole thing just one of those excessively elaborate ways of saying there has to be a change because
Yes.
otherwise all these problems would occur?
I wonder how Jim Scott is dealing with this with the term fundamental transformation. Is he saying a transformation of? Oh, okay, let's see, mental cultivation. Are you able to find it, Cynthia?
Well, I'm in this section. I'm just trying to figure out exactly where he's talking about mind stream a lot. He's going through the same arguments and objections, but I'm trying to find the exact place that we are.
Oh, we're in application, I think. One.
We're not still in the flaws?
Uh,
Yeah.
oh, I think we are. Yeah, yeah, we're in
Okay, so for him
flaws,
it's
which is
disadvantages, which
F.
is page 189 is the beginning of disadvantages.
Right. Okay.
And
He just says transformation.
yeah, he's definitely using the word transparent. Oh yeah, he's not even using the word fundamental in front of
In
it.
one
But
one place, he says transformation of the mind continuum. If a mind stream has not undergone transformation.
the underlying basis for entering progressively higher paths on the part of specific mind streams.
If no transformation occurred, the prior transformation. If no transformation had been undergone, the flaw of there being no basis of imputation for the term nirvana would
On that, right.
apply. This could be illustrated as follows, just the term samsaric individual, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well,
The term nirvanic individual has nothing else as its base of imputation than the metamorphosis in which taint has disappeared. Without that transformation, there would be no other basis for the term nirvanic individual than the continuity of aggregates, and they would be the same as they had been before, where no transformation had taken place.
okay. Well,
Anyway,
let's
yeah.
continue with page 65, the top. The path of the great vehicle brings about a transcendence of suffering um, within the basic field, dharmadhatu, in which there is no remainder of the defiled aggregates. Nevertheless, in this transcendence of suffering, the continuity of the undefiled bodies and forms of wakefulness is unceasing. This being the case, it should go without saying that this is the very identity of the complete and fundamental transformation. If it should go without saying, why are you saying it? Furthermore, the three different forms of so-called enlightenment associated with each of the three vehicles derive from different forms of fundamental transformation. In some cases, the obscurations have only been partially purified, while in others they may be completely purified. Though the different forms of enlightenment are posited in relation to such differences, in the absence of fundamental transformation, there is no basis for identifying the three distinct forms of enlightenment as such. Indeed, there would be no basis for identifying which of the three different types of enlightenment would occur when one moves beyond suffering into the basic field without remainder. Hence, describing each type of enlightenment, such as explaining the magnitude of their respective qualities of abandonment and realization, would be as pointless as trying to explain whether the son of a barren woman is handsome or not. I have offered this extensive explanation here due to the fact that this has not been explained in detail in either the Indian or Tibetan commentaries of the past. May it delight the wise. That's interesting. This one section is is a sort of unique, given that last little statement. I have to go back and read the other translation of it later. Let's see. Okay, so benefits. On the 10th topic, the treatise states, accessing the opposite. The benefits should be understood to involve 4 points. Accessing the opposite of these flaws, the benefits that relate to the presence of fundamental transformation should be understood to involve 4 points. The 10th topic concerns... Wait a second. Oh, I see. It was a very short stanza, a short root verse. The 10th topic concerns accessing the benefits of having this fundamental transformation which occur once the 4 flaws associated with its absence have been averted. The 4 beneficial qualities can be understood from the preceding topic. I think they're indicating as the opposites of the preceding flaws. Though a specific mind stream may not cease, it does remain present, with the identity of a complete and fundamental transformation from its earlier state. A specific mind stream remains. As this is the case, it serves as a support for the perpetual non-recurrence of the afflictions, as a support for engaging the path, as a basis for identifying the transcendence of suffering, and as a basis for identifying and distinguishing the differences between the 3 different types of enlightenment or result, meaning the liberations brought about by each of the 3 vehicles. So it serves as a support, meaning a specific mind stream remains present. And that mind stream has undergone a transformation whereby flaws no longer adhere to it. From this perspective, we can see that the wakefulness of this complete and fundamental transformation is the basis for identifying the enlightenment of liberation and the transcendence of suffering. It is the source of inexhaustible positive qualities, as well as the sublime support for accomplishing, in accordance with their wishes, the temporal and ultimate welfare of each and every being that fills the reaches of space. Knowing this, fortunate individuals should endeavor to accomplish this wakefulness. Sounds like some of the chants we do, that last part there. Conclusion on the 3rd topic. So we went from the 10th topic to the 3rd topic, right? Because as with all Tibetan texts, the way they divide an entire text into topics is they have they call it the praise or whatever at the beginning, the introduction where they talk about the title and the praise to some deity, whatever. And then the second part is the body of the text, and the third part is the conclusion. The non-existent phenomena that appear are likened to illusion streams and so forth. Fundamental transformation is likened to space, gold, water, and so forth. Let's glimpse at our outline here. So I collapsed it into a Western style. Yeah, never mind. Maybe their diagram shows it. Conclusion. Huh. If you go to the appendix, the topical outline, there's 4 parts. The title, the translator's homage, the meaning of the scripture, and the meaning of the conclusion. I guess the text itself eliminates the translator's homage, I would imagine, since the text doesn't have a translator. So it would have the title, the scripture, and the conclusion. Anyway, to gain conviction that the false imagination's appearances manifest yet do not exist, examples are given in the following way. Appearances appear yet don't exist. The non-existent phenomena that appear while not existing are likened to illusions, dreams, mirages, echoes, and so forth, the 12 analogies of appearances. As for the way that the fundamental transformation is not subject to change, it is said that fundamental transformation... Wait a second. The fundamental transformation is not subject to change. Doesn't the transformation mean that there's change?
Or is that talking about once it's happened, there's no going back?
I guess so.
But I don't know that that's right. I'm not sure. It's,
It is said that fundamental transformation is likened to naturally pure space, excellent gold, clean water, and so forth. Space is exclusively pure by nature, and when this is not realized, it is simply due to its association with adventitious rather factors, such as mist, whereas once free from such factors, it is seen to have been and always will be pure. This is not as if something previously impure has become pure. Rather, the observation of purity simply emerges when the causes preventing that observation are gone. It is not that the observation of its purity makes us committed to space being subject to change. That's a problem, isn't it?
I get the feeling suddenly that they're completely arguing against
Yes,
what they've
there
been
is no
arguing.
change. Space
Right.
doesn't change.
What they're saying now is that
The
when you go back to
changes.
that sentence at the bottom, instead of saying that the fundamental transformation is not subject to change, they're saying the foundation is not subject to change. Meaning that
Yeah.
the gold, space, all these things that are fundamentally not changeable. So this is weird.
It says we're gonna have to take this up with me, Pom.
Yeah.
Who's his
Time
literary?
traveler, please. Where's the Wayback Machine or current incarnation?
Let's check out Jim
Wow.
Jim Scott. The total transformation corresponding to pure being is like in the space within fundamental being. No stain of perceived has ever been present, but the basic state is obscured by delusion, produces seeming impurity. Okay. I guess they're allowed to be contradictory.
Well, I mean, I guess somehow it's not saying it, but in a sense, what it's saying is the transformation is not of the base, but of how we see it.
Totally.
But yet they don't seem to actually be clearly stating that. I mean, that's very bizarre language.
Very interesting, yeah. The same can be said with respect to the examples of gold and water. The examples of gold and water are not likened to this fundamental transformation in consideration of their substance, but rather due to simply having similar qualities. The example of space, on the other hand, shows everything, i.e., it has similar its consideration of substance as well. The example, the words and so forth should be understood to imply, for instance, a fabric that is cleansed by the removal of its stains, and all other such examples. Third, mipam is the conclusion, which presents the topics discussed earlier, meaning phenomena and their intrinsic nature, using various examples. The appearance of the phenomena of cyclic existence is simply due to false imagination. These appearances are referred to as non-existent phenomena because they appear while lacking any essence of their own. Illusions, dreams, the reflection of the moon and water, and other such cases are used to illustrate the appearance of these phenomena. They appear to the deluded perspective yet do not exist, just as each of these examples appears while lacking any existential existence of what it appears to be. The complete and fundamental transformation into the intrinsic nature is likened to naturally pure space, excellent gold, clear water, and the sun, unobstructed by clouds and other such examples. In terms of the way things are, all phenomena have been free from the duality of apprehended and apprehender, as well as all other forms of impurity from the very beginning. Nevertheless, due to the power of delusion, the way things are is obscured and things appear to be impure. When this is the case, it is said that no fundamental transformation has taken place. The strength of eliminating these impurities via the path brings about a state of complete concordance between the way things appear and the way things are. This marks the attainment of the ultimate fundamental transformation. If the intrinsic nature is subject to change, one may object insofar as it is not fundamentally transformed in one period and is transformed in another. Then would it not be the case that its nature could not be pure from the very beginning and that it is subject to change? Ooh, troublemaker. Primordially pure space can temporarily be clouded by mists and other factors. Gold can be covered with mud. Water can be filled with sediment, and the sun can be blocked like clouds. These and other such examples show how things can be obscured, yet without that which is obscured being tainted by that which obscures it. Moreover, when the character of that which is free from obscuration becomes manifest, it is not the case that something new has come into existence. Similarly, it must be understood that fundamental transformation is attained due to its being divested of incidental impurities. The reality of this natural luminosity is obscured by adventitious impurities, yet what was not apparent at an earlier time will appear at a later time, at a later point, due to the power of the path. A little bit sketchy there.
Can I offer something? I found myself thinking that, like in the bottom of the prior page, when they say the strength of eliminating these impurities via the path, if they would simply say the strength of eliminating the perception of these impurities, then it seems like that would be getting at the heart of the matter, no? Because ultimately, if they took all of these words through this whole book to go through all these arguments where it's really just a shift of our perception, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is a problem. We're going to have to work on this.
Uh-oh. Do I see another course coming?
Wow, this was interesting. This ending here, sort of non-climatic, right? Climactic.
It is odd, actually, after all you go through, then suddenly it's sort of, is that it?
There really was no fundamental transformation. Okay, colophons of the author and translators. Well, the plan for the rest of the course was to see how Vasubandhu's commentary explained this, and I'll check in Carl's book, and if anyone else has that book, Mining Wisdom Within Delusion. Also check for me, and let's look at Rangjung Dorje's Karmapa, third Karmapa's commentary, and see if he addresses. Let's see. His commentary may be more helpful, and since it's very long, we could pick out sections to look at instead of staying with Vasubandhu. Or we could pick out points like this last point, and we could see how both of them address it, as well as there's a commentary by I believe Gorampa in Carl's book. We could like focus on a topic and see how each commentary addresses it. That may be more interesting. And if you can help with that, Cynthia, that'd be great.
I don't know that I have all of those texts. That's the only problem. I'll,
Carl's
I
Mind
don't think I
Delusion.
have Carl's, but I'll look, but I don't think I have that one.
Okay.
I'll check.
Okay, cool. I know somebody else here does.
The Gorampa is in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Did Thomas raise his hand? Do you have that
Yeah,
one?
Thomas has it. Yeah, so help me out. That'd be great. So let's conclude then. Ah, okay. Colophons are the author and translators. This completes the stanzas of distinguishing phenomena from their intrinsic nature composed by the protector Maitreya. This translation was prepared, edited, and established, but not published, by the Kashmiri preceptor Mahajana and the Lotsawa of Jama, the monk Sengye Jeltsin. Colophons are the commentators. These annotations were made by Shenpa Nongwa based on the commentary by the second Buddha. There's a lot of second Buddhas.
What happened to Padmasambhava?
Padmasambhava, Nagarjuna. Let there be excellent virtue, though not all were recorded as translated in the early translation period in indices of canonical texts such as the Den Karma. The Den Karma is a text on the early history of Buddhism in Tibet. Some accounts hold that all five teachings of Maitreya were indeed translated at that time. So there's a little controversy over whether they were all translated in the early period or not. Many great scholars lived in this period, including the abbot Shantarakshita and Master Padmasambhava, and the Buddha's teachings still existed in their entirety in India. For these reasons, they were undoubtedly translated in this early period, in this period. So that sort of questions this whole story of Maitripa finding them in a pillar of a temple, hidden. So he lived in like the 11th or 10th century, Maitripa, and Padmasambhava and Shantarakshita were in the 8th century. So there's a couple hundred some odd years between them, during which, I mean, they could have been hidden there during the persecution. But the implication was that Maitripa found them in India, I thought. Anyway, we'll have to do some detective work on that. With supreme intelligence, the regent and supreme bodhisattva accurately explains the intent of the victorious one's teachings. By the virtue of having explained this scripture, this gateway of the victorious one's heirs, may the immaculate teachings of the victorious one spread in the 10 directions. The glacial lake of non-conceptual wakefulness. That's cool. It's a glacial lake. Is the source of the treasures of the noble one's dharma. May I and all beings enter into it with delight and bring completion, maturation, and cultivation to completion, to perfection. It's an odd trilogy, an odd threesome. In the year of the fire ox, I was requested to compose this text by Chulko Rinpoche at this very monastic center. At a later date, I received the same request from some devoted individuals. Prompted by these requests and by my own devotion for this great treatise, I, Mipam Jamyang Nambar Jelwa, later composed this commentary in the year of the wood horse at the great monastic center of Katok as a side project. As a sidebar, while explaining the ornament of clear realization, which is the Abhisamaya Alam Kura by Maitreya. I completed this text in a matter of 3 days. What a guy, huh?
On his tea breaks.
What a guy, yeah, in between sessions. That's what they say, yeah. Instead of checking his phone and the news and stuff, That's what he did during his breaks, right?
Maybe he used AI to do it.
That's right. He used Chat AI GPT. That's great. That's great. Well, uh, let us end there for tonight and get back to you on what next for the remaining few weeks. Thank you, everyone. By this merit may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom, may the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled, may all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory. Okay, good night, everyone. Nice to see you. Take care.